One of the largest questions that people ask is this question: what is true love? So, if you had to define what true love was, do you think you would be able to do it? It's a very important question. What is true love? What constitutes the real thing, as opposed to a false love or a phony love, as opposed to limerence or having a crush on someone? And also, love is not just romantic, is it? We have the love that people call for when they say, "Where is the love?" A brotherly love sense. We have love that we can have for objects or things that are of value to us. So, what really is love, and how do we find the true love? Well, the dictionary would define love as an intense feeling of deep affection. And this is the common idea of love, is that it's an intense feeling of deep affection or connection to something or someone. But that is an incomplete picture of what love truly is. You see, because when we make it all about the feeling, then it gives us a misconception of what love really is. And so when we see someone and we start to feel intense feelings, we believe we are falling in love with them, when really we are falling in limerence with them. For those who don't know what limerence is, it's a term that was designed to describe the feeling of having intense feelings like a crush on someone. But this limerence can be very intense to the point where it starts to actually take over our lives. And maybe you felt like that before, this feeling of losing control because you're feeling so many strong feelings for a person. Limerence can be all-consuming. It can be dangerous because we could have it for someone who really isn't truly deserving of our affection, and we don't realize that until we're deep into the long run. So what tonight's talk is designed to do is to help us understand the difference between this limerence, this false love, this feeling of falling in love, and what true love is and how we can cultivate it. The reason we need to know how to cultivate true love is because true love is a manifestation of good energy. Now, you may remember, if you've been keeping up with our Mindset Mondays, but we've been going through one by one, discussing the 9 manifestations of good energy. So as a reminder for those who may not remember, those 9 different attributes of good energy are these qualities that we can see in a person or we can see in ourselves, so that we can really get an idea if the energy that we're observing is good. Since energy is in itself invisible, we only know if the energy is good by how it manifests itself. And so when someone or something manifests compassion, ethics, happiness, serenity, flexibility, generosity, confidence, discipline, and patience, then those are manifestations of good energy. It's good to have this list in mind, and I'll go ahead and put a PDF of this list on the website, mindfree.org. But you want to have this list in mind when you're analyzing if someone in your life truly loves you. You see, you can go right down the list and ask yourself, does this person show compassion? Or if you're trying to analyze if a prospective mate is a good mate, meaning do they have good energy? Do they manifest compassion? Do they manifest ethics? Are they a happy person? Are they peaceful? Are they serene? Are they flexibility? Are they flexible? Do they have a mildness? Are they low key? Are they able to be reasonable? Are they generous? Right? Do they treat people well? Are they kind? Are they confident? Do they manifest discipline, self-control, structure in their life? And last of all, are they patient with others? And so it's good for us to keep in mind what's really happening here with these manifestations of good energy, because just like there's good energy in the world, there's also bad energy. So when we think about some of the relationships we've gotten into, thinking that the love was real or the love was true, you may have found yourself seeing manifestations of bad energy, which are the opposites of this list. So instead of feeling love and compassion in the relationship, you felt indifference, coldness, even hatred. Instead of feeling that the person was ethical, pure of heart, good, you saw that the person really lacked morals. They lacked boundaries. They lacked good intention. Instead of there being a lot of joy in the relationship, you may have found that the person was bitter, was angry, was jealous. Instead of the person being serene, peaceful, the person always had a fight to pick. The person's always trying to start an argument. They're never at peace. They're always angry. Instead of the person manifesting flexibility, they're low-key, mild, easygoing. You found that they were rigid, they were harsh, they were demanding. They had an intense personality. Instead of them manifesting kindness and generosity, you found that the person was stingy, not giving, selfish. Instead of the person manifesting confidence, faith, you notice the person was insecure, jealous. Instead of the person manifesting discipline, you notice the person was impulsive, lacking self-control. Instead of the person manifesting patience, you notice the person was constantly impatient, right? Snapping, given to anger. Can you see how it's good to understand how good energy manifests so that we can also understand where bad energy is manifesting? What's important to understand about compassion, what we're talking about today, which is love, is that love is the one of the 9 manifestations that encompasses all of the other 8. Love is the one of the 9 manifestations that encompasses all of the other 8. So when you think about what true love is going to cover those other 8 manifestations, such as it's going to be ethical, it's going to be good, pure in intention. There's going to be joy and happiness involved. It's going to be serene. There's going to be flexibility. True love is generous. True love is confident. True love has discipline. True love is patient, right? And so if we were to define what true love or compassion really is, we wouldn't go with just the dictionary definition of having intense feelings for something or someone. Or the dictionary definition of compassion talks about showing pity or feeling pity for the suffering of another. It's encompassing of both of these. Yes, there's intense feelings of compassion. There's pity, but true love manifests feelings. It manifests concern and empathy and sympathy. But true love is not just that. It's not just feelings. It's not just empathy. How do we get there? How do we develop the feelings? How do we develop the empathy? All feelings follow thoughts. Feelings follow thoughts. So in the energy realm, the very matrix of the feelings is the thoughts that you have in pure energy form in the mind. So if you want to manifest love, you have to create love in your mind, the concept, the thought of love. So true love is the choice, the decision to focus on all of the positive qualities or aspects of the target. True love is a choice, a decision to focus on all of the positive qualities or aspects of an individual. And as a result, then to develop intense feelings. But it's not all about the feels. Because isn't it true that over time, if you truly love, for instance, your mates, you won't always feel butterflies in your stomach every time you're around them because it's not sustainable. You see, over time, your system learns to regulate, right? So imagine, for instance, when you first see a friend that you haven't seen in a long time, and you go up to the friend and you say, "Hey," and you lift you spread your arms wide and you give them a hug and they come running toward you, right? This is how we respond when we haven't seen someone right away. We get an immediate shot of dopamine and oxytocin, right? But is it sustainable to keep that same level of energy up for the rest of the evening as you're having dinner? Hey, hey, every time you look up at them, hey, that doesn't make sense, right? The system regulates and says, okay, now we're here. We see the person. We still love them. But now we're going to choose to have a sustaining love, which doesn't mean that we're going to keep giving them a hug or yelling, hey, every time we look at them, but it's to appreciate that they're there. We're just going to have a general baseline appreciation for them. Now, it's important to understand this, the way that our system regulates, because this is how addiction works. And addiction works on the same axis or the same principles as limerence. So when you find yourself falling in love, when you find yourself falling in crush with someone, you just can't stop thinking about them. That's limerence, not necessarily true love. And I'll explain the difference. You see, limerence is all about just that intense feeling, but it's not always based on anything solid. Again, limerence is that intense feeling without having a solid basis. So you can feel limerence for a movie star you've never met. You can feel limerence for a coworker that you barely know. You can feel limerence for a classmate that you only see for 45 minutes a day, the back of her head. Or a teacher who stands in front of the class. You can feel limerence for your therapist or for an employee or an employer. You can feel limerence for these different individuals who are moving in and about your life, and you see them and you fixate on that person. But I assure you that fixation that you're feeling and sensing toward that person, that obsession that you're developing toward that person, is not true love. It's an obsession that works on the same axis as addiction. You see, like love, you are focusing on all the positive qualities. But number one, the things that you are seeing that seem to align with your values may not be as solid as you would imagine. One, because you are actually imagining some of the qualities of this person because you don't really know the person. You are imagining qualities when it's limerence. That's not true love. You can't truly love a person if you don't truly know the person. In order to love someone, you have to be able to focus on the true positive aspects and qualities that they have. Right now, you are focusing on aspects and qualities that you imagine, that you think you're seeing, that you're assuming, but you don't know for sure if that is true, if that is the whole picture of the person, because you can't name their flaws, because they're just a celebrity, they're just a star, they're just an employer or a therapist, they're just someone that you're putting a focus on without knowing them in their entirety. Do you see how that's a slippery slope? In addition, the principles that you feel are aligning with this person, maybe principles or values that you have that are really flimsy, such as, I have to have a man that rides a motorcycle. That's a value that is shallow, right? And so if you find that man who rides the motorcycle, you may be feeling like you're falling in love, but because you are basing it on an alignment with shallow values, it's not solid, it's not real, and it will prove to be false in time. And so the limerence that's actually being felt that we think is true love in that moment, and that's causing us to abandon our life and abandon our friends and abandon ourselves, is due to an addiction that's happening to the chemicals we are feeling. Because when our mind perceives that something is aligning so well with our values, it brings the energy into matter and starts releasing actual hormones, chemicals into our system: dopamine, oxytocin, dopamine, oxytocin. And as you're getting these hits of dopamine and oxytocin at very high levels, your system says, oh, this is it. I love this feeling. The way I felt before was okay, but the way I feel now is better than ever. And so it seeks more of that. Your brain searches for more dopamine. So even when you're just relaxing, having some time to yourself, trying to do activities that you used to do or hang out with your old friends, the brain says, hey, I'm not getting that dopamine. How do I get that? And it starts searching through your Rolodex of thoughts for what will give it the dopamine, and it reaches out to think about that one guy, that one celebrity, that one person. You start thinking about that person again and again and again and again, so you can get that hit of dopamine. Oh, that feels so good. Think about them again. Oh, that feels so good. And then we become obsessed with, are they texting? Are they calling? Are they reaching out? Have they done anything? Anything they do, if they just brush past you, you can get that hit of dopamine. So you're always looking to create another interaction. Why? Because we are addicted at this point to the chemicals. And we think we're falling in love because we say, I can't stop thinking about them. We're equating the chemical reaction that we're experiencing with magic. And so we start to develop magical thinking, such as, if I feel this strongly, it must be real. It must be true. If I'm thinking about him or her, they must be thinking about me. Do you see the danger here? Is any of this real? No, it's based on flimsy values, and it's based on not truly knowing the person in and out, because you can't name their actual flaws. You become blind to them. And if you even see a flaw, you may actually develop a mindset that that flaw doesn't truly matter. Oh, who cares? That's not important. Or I like that. I think that's cute. Give it some time. You will not find those flaws cute anymore. You see, because you're stuck in limerence, you are addicted. You are not in your right mind. And so, like any addict, you're going around and going along trying to get more dopamine hits, and the system regulates. The problem with addiction, when your system regulates, is it says we can no longer sustain getting a dopamine hit every time we're with this person. So what we'll do is we'll make it so that when you think about this person, when you're with this person, or this person's contacting you or texting you or calling you, we'll make that the new baseline. So you'll feel normal. And then we'll just punish you all the other times with toxic chemicals, cortisol, and adrenaline, to push you to go toward baseline again. So now it's not so much that being around this person and texting this person and calling this person makes you feel great. It's now just that it makes you feel baseline. And this is the same way we feel when we get addicted to drugs or alcohol or video games. We're just trying to get back to baseline after a while. We're not even trying to get high anymore. Because when you don't have that stimulant, that person, and they're not texting and they're not calling, you feeling punishing chemicals. And the loneliness sets in. Loneliness is a condition of the mind where we fear being by ourselves, which is quite an ironic condition, since all of us are autonomously just alone and by ourselves. But we develop an idea that this is wrong, to be alone. We develop an idea that it's wrong to be by ourselves. So we develop this loneliness, and it's just so crushing. But hold on a second. Do you remember before you fell in love, which is really limerence with this person, you were fine when you were alone? You were okay to be with your friends? You enjoyed doing other things? You may have even loved yourself and kind of had a routine for yourself. You were progressing in your mental health. You were doing good in so many ways and so many facets and areas of life. And now you can't maintain any of them. Why? Because you are behaving like an addict, an addiction that this person has developed now, and you are trying to feed this addiction just to get back to baseline. You always feel bad when you don't have this person. And now you have to go through a whole addiction treatment to get over this person, to get out of this loop, to let your system re-regulate so that your new baseline is being without them. It takes time to break out of that. So we need to avoid limerence. Limerence is a dangerous trap. It's a trap. Don't get caught in it. So how do we do that? Well, if it's romantic relationships, then that's the value of not dating, but instead vetting, which allows you within the first 24 hours of meeting the person, before you fall head over heels in this intense feeling for them, you get to know the whole person. You get to know the flaws as much as is possible. You want to understand the entirety, the real picture of the individual, so that you can have a balanced perspective, not just the good, not just the bad, not idealization, not devaluation, but balance. They have good qualities, they have bad qualities. They got things I have in common with them, things I do not. Every person is like that. Every person, even Mr. Right, even your soulmate, they're all just human beings with flaws. And so we need to learn to identify what the flaws of the individual are. So what is true love? True love is making the choice, making the decision to love someone anyway, to focus on all of the positive attributes and qualities of that person, and to make sure that every interaction is majority positive. Researchers have been able to get a mathematical equation to whether a relationship will work based on the number and fractions of interactions, and it's a 1 to 5 or a 1 out of 5. So if 1 out of 5 interactions is negative with a person, but the other 4 to 5 interactions are actually positive, then that's a predictor of success in the relationship. You see, but if 2 out of the 5 interactions are negative and the other 3 are positive, it's a predictor of demise of the relationship or divorce. If 2 of your 5 interactions with a person are actually negative interactions, it's a predictor of divorce. If 3 out of 5 of the interactions are negative, as you can see, it's even more so imminent that this relationship will fail. It's mathematical. They've gotten it down to a formula, which makes sense because that's the same formula of the body, which must have 1 to 5, 1 part carbon. The other 4 to 5 parts are what? Nitrogen and oxygen. So 85% nitrogen, oxygen, 15 or 18 to 20% is carbon. If you get too much carbon in the system, what happens? Your whole system shuts down. So we see this principle, this 80-20 rule of thumb, repeated in nature in many ways. And this is how love actually works on a mathematical, scientific basis. If you focus your mindset so that 80% of your thoughts about something or person are positive, upbuilding, then you're going to feel and create and cultivate true love for the person. And so a man and a woman make a decision in a marriage to love their mate, not because everything the mate does is spectacular, not because everything about them is perfect, but because they do it out of principle. True love is principled love. It's making the decision or the choice to focus on all the good qualities of the target. Does that make sense? It's important that we're able to clear up some misconceptions that people have about love. Some people think that love is always easy and effortless. If you have true love, it's not about it being easy or effortless. It takes work. It requires you to come to the table with a pen and paper, set appointments. Okay, we're going to sit down. We're going to talk about things in this relationship, and you're taking notes and you're compromising and listening. It takes work. That's true love. It's not always easy and effortless. That's a false perception. Some people believe that love is enough to sustain a relationship. If you have true love, if you really love each other, no, that's not enough. You actually need relationship skills. Two people could love each other, but if they have no relationship skills, their relationship is not going to work. Reality of relationships is that they require trust, communication, respect, shared values, some interests shared, and they have to have shared goals and objectives. So just that you are in love with the person, that's not enough. It's not enough. There's a misconception that love is always a feeling. Love is not always a feeling. Sometimes you're going to look at a person that you've chosen to love, i.e., your child or your mate or your buddy, your best friend, and you're just going to think, what? The way that they're shoving chips in their mouth or something they're doing is going to be very irritating or unattractive about the person. It's not always going to be a feeling overwhelming inside of you, but you will choose to continue to love that person. That is to have a positive disposition toward the person, to focus on their positive attributes, and to have 4 out of 5 positive interactions with the person. A common misconception is that love is always passionate or intense. That's not true. Sometimes you're just relaxing and it's just kind of quiet, or it's a little boring. But that boringness can be safety. You don't feel passion or intensity because the person is trustworthy, solid, and reliable. A common misconception also is that love requires sacrificing your own needs in the relationship. This is also a misconception. If we go to Jesus' words, he said, love thy neighbor as you love yourself. There needs to be an equilibrium between how much you love yourself and you love the other person. It should be equal. So how do you love yourself? Everything we just talked about was a lesson in how to love yourself. Remember what love is? Love is focusing on, choosing to focus on all the positive qualities. To love yourself, you need to focus on all your positive qualities. You need to make sure your self-talk is 80%, 4 times out of 5, positive. So every time you say something like, I'm so stupid, that's abuse. If you're going to be critical, I need to hear 4 positive remarks for every 1 critical statement you make about yourself, if you're going to truly love yourself. Can you do that? Why don't you write that in your notes and make it an exercise that you will do to keep your own self-love sustained. Teach yourself that every time you make a critical remark in your own mind about yourself, you have to make 4 positive upbuilding remarks about yourself as well, so that you keep the energy 80% positive. When you keep your energy toward yourself 80% positive in your mind, that is good energy. That is love. Love is good energy, and good energy is love. Can we break it down mathematically, scientifically? You bet. You bet. There's a formula to it all. You have to keep the energy. That's all the thoughts, all the words, all the interactions, 80% positive. So how are you speaking to yourself? That's where you can check if there's self-love. As we mentioned, love is the embodiment of all of the 8 manifestations of good energy. So happiness, if we love ourselves, then we will find that we are truly happy. We will find that there is joy, there is contentment, serenity. If you love yourself, then you'll find that you are peaceful, you are serene. Generosity, if you love yourself, then you'll not just give all of your time to everyone else. You'll be generous and give some of that time to you. And it's the same vice versa, right? If you love others, then you won't just be taking all the time and energy and resources for yourself and never giving anything to others. It takes a balance. Which one is more important? Both are more important. We need to love others and love ourselves equally, not one and not the other, equally. What about flexibility? Flexibility is the state of being reasonable, yielding, mild, able to go with the flow. It means that we don't always have to be my way or the highway, main character. We can just sometimes, hey, sure, no problem. What you want is okay. Don't you wish everyone in your life had that flexibility, that mildness? It's a manifestation of good energy, and it's a quality of love. But how can we show flexibility with ourselves? Stop being so harsh with yourself. Stop self-abusing. Stop saying, oh, I did that wrong. No way. Nope. I'm not allowing myself to eat any brownies. Nope. I'm not. Stop with the harshness. It's not helpful. It's not helping you to lose weight, to be harsh with yourself. It's not helping you to get better, to be a good person, to be harsh with yourself. I know that's what you learned because you're mimicking maybe an abusive mother or father. And maybe it helped you achieve some good grades in school or something like that. But if you haven't noticed, it's unsustainable. It's led to you being a perfectionist, which has led to you procrastinating because you become overwhelmed with simple tasks. Stop being harsh. Start being mild, flexible. Flexibility is, well, it's a little bit late. Maybe I can't clean the whole kitchen tonight, but I'll wash the dishes and we'll leave the rest for tomorrow. That'll be fine. Maybe I'll just sweep the floor. Flexibility. Give yourself flexibility, and that's giving yourself self-love. Being patient with yourself. When we're on this healing journey, self-patience is very important. And then finally, we have to have confidence, faith. We want to be unshakable, unmovable in our belief that we will have our needs met. That's confidence. We should be ethical, should have good morals, including toward ourselves. Make sure we're pure of heart, pure of intention. Feeling like you don't care if you die, that's not having good morals or being pure in your heart and intention toward yourself. And then finally, self-discipline is self-love. So self-discipline is not so much the beating of the self, but self-discipline is the structuring of yourself to the degree that you create parameters. And you say, okay, I could have brownies, but I'm just going to have a couple bites and savor it and put it down. That's self-discipline. It's control of the self. That is love because it ultimately leads to the benefit of the self. So ask yourself, now that I understand what true love is, am I manifesting this true form of compassion toward myself and my life? Now that I understand what true love is, does that man or that woman that I've been looking at, that I've been admiring, truly manifest this level of good love and good energy in their life? And now that I understand what true love and compassion is, how does the relationship that I'm in measure up? You have 9 manifestation characteristics that you can measure it up to. 80% of the interactions need to be positive. And so make sure that you're using the math and the science to analyze and make sure that your love is not just a feeling, but it's a choice. It's a decision. It's principled love, true compassion.